Hey everyone, today I'm going to be bringing you something a little different. I'm going to be doing a review of this month's releases for the Batman Miniatures game. So this will be the November 2016 episode of the monthly releases, and what I'm going to do is just show you a couple pictures of the models and then do sort of my thoughts and commentary on the models themselves. So I guess we'll get right into the first one, which would be these guys right here. It is Bird and his mercenaries. Pretty cool there for the Bane crew. So you get, it's one of those 4-pack starters. You get Bird, a guy named Schoolboy, Dias, and the other guy at the back. We'll just go into more detail on the cards, but you know, they follow sort of the same thing as what you'd expect from Bane. Just a bunch of mercenaries and soldier of fortune type guys, which are pretty cool. So I guess we'll just get right into the first card, which will be Bird. Alright, so the first guy we have is Bird. He's a sidekick for the Bane crew. He's fairly standard for a sidekick. Comes in at 60 reputation points and 100 funding. He has willpower 6, movement 3, attack 3, defense 3, endurance 7, and special 3. He has the combat machete. He has a weapon, so it's a blood and a stud, and it has a sharp. That's his close combat, and then he does have a range attack with his smoke grenade. Now for his traits, he has the bulletproof vest. It's fairly standard for all of Bane's sort of henchmen. The veteran rule, another common one for Bane's henchmen. He has a climbing rope, which counts as a bat cape, so that's pretty cool. He could, I guess, start on a building and jump down, or if he ever finds himself having to get down from a place, he doesn't have to worry about taking any sort of damage from falling. He has elite boss, soldier of fortune, so that's a sort of special class of Bane's henchmen, I guess the elite level of them. He has weapon master with his machete, so it's a +1 to hit with that. And then he has a neat rule. I think he's probably the first guy to have it. It's self-discipline. So what that does is it makes him immune to being hypnotized. So guys like Ivy and Mad Hatter cannot take him over. He's just immune to it, so that's cool. He also has 2 other rules that are just for him. One of the boys, so he can use the Let's Go rule as if he was a henchman, which is pretty interesting. And military training. So once per round, other friendly characters within 20 centimeters of him that have the veteran trait can move up to 5 centimeters immediately. The interesting thing about this is it doesn't reduce that model's rate of fire. So guys like Dallas and TNT, they can move 5 centimeters if they're in a bad spot, and they're still going to be able to fire at their full rate of fire. Now this is the first henchman we've seen for Bane, so it's actually pretty cool that we got this guy. I don't know too much about him, but it looks like he's based on someone from the video game, so that's pretty sweet. As far as henchmen go, though, you know, he's pretty solid. He has a lot of things that sort of help out or that allow him to mesh well with the rest of Bane's henchmen, and he's in a fairly cheap place with 60 reputation, so it's not too expensive to take him. And I really like this guy. I think he'll work well for the Bane crew in general. Alright, so I guess we'll get on to the next guy, which will be... Alright, so the next guy in this Bane pack is Clover. He's just a henchman level dude. He's only affiliated with Bane, which is cool. Willpower 5, strength 5, movement 3, attack 3, defense 3, endurance 5, pretty respectable, and special 3. He has an automatic gun, so that's a pistol. It's a firearm, short range, and it has the light rule, which is handy. Not the real handy, it's just good to have on a gun. His damage, blood, and stun, rate of fire 3 with 2 ammo. He does have a bulletproof vest, as I think all of Bane's henchmen do. He has the veteran rule, and he has rapid fire, so he can, I believe it's spend a counter, and his gun will shoot 1 extra time, so it might be rated fire 4, which is kind of handy. He comes in at 30 reputation and 300 funding. that might hurt him a bit because usually Bane's crew is very funding heavy. Most of the time they want to take people like Dallas or TNT with those automatic rifles that just destroy characters. So he might not have a place unless you're going for sort of like a more close combat oriented crew. He might have a hard time fitting in, but you know, he's still fairly respectable. Good guy, I guess, to have run around and camp objectives or try to contest things. You know, with that bulletproof vest, he doesn't have to worry about getting shot off an objective as much, and he can still put out pretty respectable damage with that rapid fire on his automatic pistol or automatic gun. So I like this guy. I think, you know, he might have his place, although like I just said, he might have problems fitting in just because of that funding cost. So I guess with that, we'll jump into the next dude, which is Cuchillo. So hopefully I pronounced that right. Whatever. So he's comes in at 27 rep, no funding, which is cool. He's strength 5, willpower 5, movement 3, attack 3, defense 3, endurance 5, special 3. He has a knife, which has the sharp rule, 1 blood. And his traits are bulletproof vest, veteran, which are, you know, normal. He has sneak attack, which is, I think, a first for the Bane crew, which is pretty cool. He has stealth, which pairs very well with his sneak attack, so he can only be seen within 20 centimeters. And tireless, which is actually pretty awesome with this guy. I think you're going to see him in a lot of crews because you can combo sneak attack, stealth, and tireless all together and still have hopefully enough attacks to pump out the 3. So the idea would be to spend 1 special to run with tireless, and your run would be 20 centimeters with this guy. Then you'd spend 1 dice of movement to hopefully reach your target, and then you'd still have 3 dice left for attacking. Now, because he has stealth, or I guess you'd have to spend 1 more special, so it might be hard to get it off, but how it'd work is you'd try to pair stealth and sneak attack together so the opponent won't be able to use defense dice against him. Perhaps you can get an inspire from Bane and you can do sort of a run, a move, use sneak attack and stealth. But either way, like, this is pretty wicked on, you know, a low reputation, I should say, model with fairly, you know, henchman level stats. For 27 rep, you know, this guy's pretty freaking solid with all the abilities he has. He is only putting out 1 blood damage a hit, but, you know, send him up against other henchmen and he's gonna do all right. And again, that bulletproof vest just makes it really hard for other gun heavy crews to be able to deal with Bane. So it's nice that theme sort of carries through altogether. And I really like this guy. I think you're gonna see him in a lot of crews, probably replacing someone like McGregor, who's sort of in the same boat. You know, they both have their knife. They're only really doing 1 damage, but we'll see. I guess we'll just have to see how the meta goes. And that'll be it for him. So next up, we're going to go into Schoolboy. Alright, so here he is, Schoolboy. Again, henchman level character. He's willpower 5, strength 5+, movement 3, attack 3, defense 3, endurance 5, special 3. He's reputation 33, 500 funding. Now he has the rocket launcher that does 3 blood damage, has rate of fire 1. 2 ammo. It has the anti-tank rule, the explosive rule. It's a firearm, so it wounds on a 2+. Medium range, so only range 40 centimeters. And aim, so he has to stand still to shoot it. I think that's what aim does. He's elite soldier of fortune, so I think it's only him and right now TNT, which is another henchman level character. He has the veteran rule, no bulletproof vest, which is interesting. And then he has a gas mask, so I guess, whatever. I guess it's good against Scarecrow, but I don't think too much else is smoke heavy. Basically, this is just your anti-vehicle guy. I guess it's night models sort of laying the groundwork for when vehicles do come into the game. This crew at least will be ready. A few other rocket launchers are out right now. I know the Joker has one, and I believe Two-Face has one. Might be wrong there. But yeah, this is clearly made to fight vehicles, to deal with the Batmobile at the moment, but I'm sure we'll be seeing more vehicle releases in the future. Not too much else to say about this guy. I mean, I don't really think you're gonna see him too much. That 500 funding is just brutal. It's a lot, especially if you're comparing it to someone like Dallas, who can just get so much more work done compared to him. And I guess if you want to go for the explosive, that's cool, but it's only one shot. And I guess if you have like, it's situational, where I guess if your opponent has a lot of guys clumped together, you might see some need to have it. But again, I just think the reputation and the funding could probably be spent on other henchmen. Although, you could prove me wrong. But yeah, we'll see. This guy is, like I said, just probably groundwork for when vehicles do enter the game. At least Bane's crew will be ready to deal with them. So with that, we'll get on to the next guy. Alright, so next up is Heatwave. To be honest, I'm not too sure about this guy. I know he's from the Flash TV show, or sorry, yeah, it is the Flash TV show, I think. Other than that, I don't really know. He looks pretty cool though. He's got his little flamethrower and his weird overalls, and yeah, he's cool, I guess. I don't know what else to say about him. He just looks like a crazy dude. But we'll get right into his card. So he is Heatwave. He's a free agent, affiliate unknown, so he can basically go with everyone, although he does have a short list of people he can't go with. He's strength 4, willpower 6, movement 2, so he's fairly slow, attack 4, which is nice, defense 3, endurance 8, so really high on the endurance compared to like most other people. He's special 3, pretty standard. Funding 300, so that's to pay for his flamethrower. Reputation 65, so not too expensive. He does have a flamethrower as a weapon. It's an expansive weapon with mechanical, so wounds everything on 3s, and it has the fire rule. He has 3 shots with it. It's only rated fire 1 because it has that template. And it looks like the damage is in the closest. It's a blood and a stun, then a blood, and then a stun at the farthest waypoint. He does have a fairly respectable list of personal traits, so we'll get right into them. The first one is criminal. So if he kills someone, he gets +1 willpower, I think. Is that criminal? Yeah. He has escape artist, so he can't be captured, or he can't be grabbed in close combat. He hates a bunch of people, so Batman, Green Arrow, Law Forces, Joker, and League of Shadows, he can't go with them. He has reinforced gloves, so his close combat attacks do 2 stun. He has runaway, so he's immune to being arrested, which is kind of gross. He has teamwork, Captain Cold, which is another model being released in this November block, so we'll see him in a few minutes. And he has a sturdy rule, so for every 3 damage he takes, he loses willpower, as opposed to every 2 damage. Overall, I kind of like this dude. He's fairly cheap. The funding, I always have a hard time having extra funding in my crews, but if I had $300, I'd probably toss this guy in. He has that really high endurance, so he can take a lot of punishment, and even if he does get knocked out, well, he can't get arrested, so you're gonna have to kill him if you want to get rid of him. Having a flamethrower is nice. Expansive weapons are pretty sick in this game, just because of how many models they can hit. It's only rated fire 1, but you can tag a lot of people with that template. It's pretty huge. He's alright in close combat, I guess you can say average. He does do that 2 stun a hit, so it's pretty nice. If, people do get in on him, he can still hold his own. Attack 4 is fairly nice, so, hard to block him. And strength 4, not the greatest, but not the worst either. So I like this guy. And, he'll be able to work well, I guess, with Captain Cold, who I'll probably review next. They can share templates if someone has some extra templates, or sorry, counters to share. He can pass them one way, or he can take some if he needs them. But other than that, yeah, just a solid shooty character for fairly cheap reputation. Alright, so next up is Captain Cold from the TV show. Again, I think this guy is from the Flash TV show. And I gotta say, I really like this guy. He just looks super badass with that freeze gun and just, his little parka. Obviously, he goes really well with Heatwave, who we just looked at. Sort of has that really same aesthetic, and you can tell they're from the same sort of multiverse or whatever, TV verse. But yeah, let's just check out his card. So he's Captain Cold. He's Willpower 6, Strength 4, Movement 3, Attack 3, Defense 4, Endurance 7, so another high defense guy. Endurance guy, and Special 3, which is standard. He comes in at 72 rep and 400 funding, so fairly high on the funding, but when you look at his weapons, it's well worth it. So he has the Cold Gun, full power. It does 2 blood and a stun, which is pretty gross. Rate of fire 1 though, and he only has 1 shot with that. It is a beam weapon. It's a short range, so it's only 20 centimeters. Cold, which I'm gonna have to look up right now, and it has the ice template. So one of the things they put out this time around was a new template as well. I think it's just the same as the explosion template, but at least they're making one now instead of having to cut out a paper one from the back. He has aim, so he has to stay still to shoot. The next gun he has is the Cold Gun. It does 2 blood. It's rate of fire 2, which, is pretty nice. Ammo 3, so in total he has 4 shots for the whole game. It's another beam weapon, medium range, does cold, which I'm still trying to frantically find as I talk. And accurate. So I believe accurate is +1 to hit. Oh, here we go. Targets. So accurate is targets when attack made by this weapon suffer a -1 penalty to movement when trying to dodge. Oh, that's pretty gross. And then cold is when this weapon inflicts damage, the target model loses 1 movement counter. So that's actually fairly deadly. It's a good way to have board control for sure. If your opponents are coming in on you and you can nail them with some cold, then they're gonna slow down. He has strategist, so at the beginning of the game, he gets +1 to the amount of strategies you can get. So usually it's 3, but now you get 4 points to spend. He has mastermind, so you get one more counter in the bag for your team. He hates the same people that Heatwave does. He has orders, so he can move around 2 action counters on a friendly henchman. He has range master, so +1 to his hit, so that's actually really good paired up with some of the guns he has. And he has teamwork Heatwave. Now he is a free agent, or he can be a sidekick for the Mr. Freeze crew, which is finally seeing a lot of love in this release. And I think this guy's a solid sidekick, or even if you want to use him as a leader. He has some stuff that meshes well with his crew in general, and having mastermind and strategist sort of helps the crew as a whole just perform better at the beginning. So next up, we'll get into, I guess, Rick Flag. Alright, so next up we have someone from the Suicide Squad movie, Rick Flag. Not too much to say about this model. He looks kind of weird. I don't know, his face is I don't dig it, but basic soldier looking dude with his sweet gun. Fits the theme of the Suicide Squad models in the movie, so they're going for a more realistic look instead of like comic booky or the Arkham verse. So whatever, average model, not too much to say about him. The card though, holy shit, I love this guy. I have a soft spot for things that go with my cop crew, and this guy is a sidekick for the law forces. Comes in at 64 reputation and 500 funding. He has a willpower of 6, strength of 4, movement and attack 3, defense 4, so fairly decent defense there. Endurance 6, not bad for a sidekick, and the standard special 3. He has a bunch of weapons, so he has a minigun, or MG, I assume that's minigun. Rate of fire 3, 2 shots. It's a firearm, medium range, and it does 2 blood a hit. He has a gun, which is, I assume, just a pistol. Blood and a stun, rate of fire 2, 2 more shots with that. Firearm and short range, and then he has a knife, so when he blows through all those shots, he still has some close combat potential. For his traits, he has a bulletproof vest. He has elite boss special forces, which is something we haven't seen yet, so obviously they're laying some more groundwork for future releases. He has a leadership rule, so what that means is all friendly models within 20 centimeters can reroll failed willpower rolls, which is actually pretty sick. At least for cops and stuff, or I guess any crew, is it's gonna protect them from hypnotize, so, or at least give them some more defense against hypnotize, any sort of leadership shenanigans. He has multi-fire, which is pretty crazy. What that one does is, for 2 special counters, his rate of fire on his guns gets +2. So if you look at his minigun there, or MG, with the rate of fire 3, if you combo that up with multi-fire, he's pumping out 5 shots, which is a potential 10 blood damage. So this guy's pretty crazy. Order allows you to rearrange 2 counters on a friendly model's card. He has veteran, so he can do that to himself, and volunteer. And volunteer is a special rule just for Suicide Squad if you take him in that crew instead. And it just means that he can't be removed from play due to the Suicide Squad special rule, which means if they don't get a certain amount of victory points per turn, one of them could potentially die. He's excluded from this. Now, again, I really love this dude. I think he's a great sidekick, and I'm super happy that Law Force is getting a few more models in there. It's a crew that I play, so I'm excited to see this. And that minigun rule comboed with multi-fire, that's pretty spectacular. It's almost on par with Deadshot's rule, where it allows him to shoot his guns twice, except Deadshot can only do it once per game. This guy can do it as long as he has ammo and counters to spend. So I think you're going to be seeing this guy jump into my Law Forces when he's released. And I guess that's all I have to say about him. Super excited about this guy. I love him. Alright. Alright, so finally for this release is probably the big one, and the one everyone's been waiting for a long time, and that's the Mr. Freeze crew. So he's finally got his first starter. We got a leader model for him and 3 henchmen, and I gotta say, Night Models really knocked it out of the park with like the models on these guys. They look perfect. You know, Mr. Freeze has that classic look from the video games. All of his goons are in hockey gear and wearing parkas, and one guy has a friggin' hockey stick, which is just hilarious. They got their freeze guns, and yeah, they just nailed the look for this crew. I think it's perfect. But let's get right into the cards. So the first one up is Mr. Freeze himself, leader for the Mr. Freeze crew. We finally got him after all this time. He's strength 4+, willpower 7. He's slow at movement 2. He only has attack 3. He's defense 4, endurance 7, which is respectable, and special 3. Comes in at 80 reputation and no funding because he's a leader. He has a bunch of special rules, but let's look at his weapon first. He has the freeze arm weapon, so that's his freeze gun, classic. His rate of fire 3, ammo 3, so he's got 3 shots. It's mechanical, so it wounds on 3. It has crit freeze, so essentially crit paralyze, crit stun. It's basically the same thing. It's an expansive template. It has the cold rule, so if it hits someone, they're at -1 movement. Counters. And then his personal traits. So he has desensitized, so he doesn't lose willpower for taking damage. He has light armor, so things that try to wound him are at -1 to their damage rolls. He has safe hands, so no one's stealing that gun off him. He's scheming 3, so during the raise of plan, if he's going first, he can choose 3 models in his crew to wait and see what the opponent does first. He's scientific, so he can spend 4 special counters instead of just 3. He has self-discipline, so that means he cannot be mind-controlled, which is very good. And he has vulnerability to fire, so every time he does take fire damage, it will do 2 blood instead of the normal 1. Finally, he has his own personal trait, which is Power Armor Mark 3, and that means he is immune to crits, which is pretty solid. He has one rule that I did overlook, and I'll get into it right now. He has Ice Flash, which it's 2 special counters, and you pick a model within 20 centimeters of him, and that model automatically takes the frozen rule, which means they're paralyzed. They can't. Their defense drops to 2. They cannot spend any counters. They cannot defend or attack. And I gotta say, this rule in general, I think, is one of the first things we've seen creep into the game that is truly broken. Paralyze is pretty devastating when you get it off, and we've only ever seen it sort of on crits or on special attacks. But now, just for spending 2 special counters, you can pick any model within 20 centimeters of you and paralyze them. It's not a roll. It's not, they can't save against it. It just happens. And that's going to turn a lot of games around very quickly. He can do this to Batman, Titan, Bane, Raz, just, anybody he wants. He can just, boom, paralyzed, and they're out for a turn. And if, the freeze player is smart, he'll pick a guy and then just totally destroy them, and then rinse and repeat the whole game and eventually wipe out the whole board. I'm not a fan of this rule, and I don't think it really has a place. I mean, I'm sure they can nerf it somehow, or at least give the opponent an ability to try to defend against it, or at least have it be like a to hit roll. But the way it is now, I just don't see it as a good rule to have. But he has it, and he is the only guy in the game to have it, so maybe it's not as bad as I'm saying with my doomsaying, but I don't know. I guess we're gonna just have to wait and see. For a leader though, this guy is friggin' solid. Super defensive, so you can play, I guess, a little more loose with him, not worry about having him get ganked too hard. Desensitized, so he's pumping out all of his willpower until the very end. And he has, the power armor Mark II, so he's immune to crits. He has the light armor, so he's not taking a lot of damage. So this is going to be a really defensive guy, and he's just perfect, I think. Aside from that Ice Flash rule, which I've already talked about and I'm not a fan of. But other than that, just a solid leader for this Mr. Freeze crew, and I'm really happy to see this guy finally enter the game. I know a lot of people are going to be excited. And yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about him. Not too much else. I think I've gone over the main points. So I guess we'll just get into his henchmen now. Alright, so the first henchman in the box is Snowy number 1. He's a henchman for Mr. Freeze. Comes in at a big 23 rep with 300 funding. He's willpower 4, so not the greatest, but he is a henchman, so whatever. Strength 5+, movement 2, attack 2, defense 3, endurance 5. Special 3, so not the greatest. Almost the worst? Nah, he's not the worst, but he's not the greatest either. But where he does come in to his own is his weapons. So he has the freeze laser. It does a blood and a stun damage. Has a rate of fire of 2 and 3 ammo. It's a beam weapon. It's medium range, and it has the cold rule, so it's stripping off movement counters, which is nice. Then he has the freeze laser, and that's the expanded beam. It's just does 1 blood damage. It has a rate of fire of 1 and 1 shot. It's a beam weapon again. It's medium range, so only 40 centimeters. It drops an ice template though, and it has the cold rule. And finally, he has hockey gear because, Mr. Freeze, he's got to have all of his dudes in hockey gear. Not too much to say about this guy. He's just fairly standard henchman for the crew. Fits the theme with the freeze gun, so if you watched the bad 90s one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, this guy fits totally in with all those sort of hockey goons that Mr. Freeze brought during that one scene. All spraying out freeze rays and guns, and again, this is going to fit the theme with the crew where it's all about board control with these guys. They're going to dictate where enemy models go and how they get there. Not too much else to say about this guy, so I guess we'll just get into the next henchman. Alright, so next up is Snowy number 2. Again, another henchman for the Mr. Freeze crew. Comes in at 23 funding, or sorry, reputation, 400 funding. He's another willpower 4 guy, so not very good on the willpower. Strength 5, movement 2, attack 2 is very slow, but as long as it's enough to shoot that gun, he has. Defense 3, he's only endurance 5, and the usual special 3. He has hockey gear, which is thematic and funny. And then he has a freezing spray gun. So this guy has an expansive weapon, has a crit cooled, so that's that paralyze effect with the cooled. It's expansive, so it uses the template. It's mechanical, so it wounds on 3s, and it has the cold. So even if you do damage a guy, you're already stripping a movement counter off them. The way the template works is in the closest, it's 2 blood. In the middle, it's 1 blood. And at the farthest away, it's 1 stun. Again, sort of just a stock standard freeze henchman, which is awesome. Not too much else to say about him, just sort of a generic henchman with a freeze gun. And I guess that means we'll get into the last guy. Alright, so last up, following the theme, is Snowy number 3. Comes in at a big 24 rep. He's strength 5 plus, willpower 5, movement 2, attack 3, defense 3, endurance 6, so a little tougher than the other guys. And of course, special 3. He does have a different weapon. This is a new one, I think, for the game. It is a hockey stick. So again, following that cold winter theme, the dude's wielding a hockey stick, so it must be from Canada. It does 2 stun damage, so fairly good. It has handy and reach, so you can reroll the hit, and you have 3 centimeters. You can attack models within 3 centimeters of yourself. It's kind of sad not to see at least heavy on this, because this dude's only a strength 5, so you might be able to hit your opponent, but I think he's going to struggle to actually get some damage through. Although when he does, look out, 2 stuns, that's solid, it's respectable. Again, he has hockey gear, he has combo with hockey stick, so he is going to be able to pump out 4 attacks if you throw your attacks in with it, and he has a radio. Other than that, not too much to say about him. This will be probably your objective holder type guy with his endurance 6. Although not too fast, but I think you can get away with movement 2. I think not too many henchmen are higher than that. Yeah, the cool thing about the Mr. Freeze starter in general, though, is that with the leader and the 3 sidekicks or henchmen, it comes in at 150 rep on the dot, which is, neat. Same with the Bane stuff that we looked at earlier. That crew box came in at 150 reps, so it might be a trend we're seeing now with the Mr. Freeze stuff, or at least the new starter sets. But yeah, finally Mr. Freeze is out, and we got to see his crew, and I think these guys are going to be really solid. Not too overpowered henchmen, but with all those freeze guns and stuff, they're really going to be able to dictate the way the game flows, and just sort of slow down their opponents and beat them down with the proper free agents. And hopefully we'll see some more henchmen as well. This crew is going to be wicked solid, and I'm just so excited that they're finally in the game. And so is Logan from the channel. He said he might want to get into the game now too because of Mr. Freeze, although I believe he only wants to do it so he can say a lot of puns, ice puns from the Batman movie in the Bat Rep. So maybe I'll just put the kibosh on that. I could deal with Logan, but yeah. Alright, so that's this month's releases, or November's releases. If you like this new style of video where I just sort of do a quick review or go over some models and stuff, let us know in the comments below. And of course, if you want to see more Batman content, please subscribe to the channel and check us out on Facebook and Twitter. All the links for that will be in the show notes below. And I guess we'll just see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching, guys.